All right. There we go. It's now 8 o'clock. Hello. Hope you guys can hear me okay. It's having some issues the mic, so just in case of any issues, just holler in chat. But yes, hello. Let me show my face. Ooh, there we go. Hello. Hi guys, welcome to yet another week, yet another stream. Hope everyone has had a polite week and learned something new, got some work done, or got to chill. You know, even chilling is still a good thing. So yeah, let me know if you guys can hear me, if you can see me okay. Stream is going well, and then we can get started with the ball animation stuff. So feel free to drop any questions you have from the stuff we've covered so far, and remember, as usual, drop your questions and let me know if you want to know anything. But the main focus today is going to be on the ball bounce. We're going to look at in the last presentation, I think I kind of rushed through the actual animation part of this. So this time I said we'll just do one full dedicated one where we'll just do the bouncing ball alone. Well, like before I've mentioned, I have a ball rig, so I have to floss that it exists, and we're going to use that. But generally what we'll cover here is going to apply to any animation software, After Effects, 3D Max. Just have to figure out how to do the poses and the squash and stretch. But generally speaking, the software shouldn't really matter. Hello, Jeffrey. What's up, Mian? Good to see you again. Good to have you here. Okay. So, got my drink ready. Gonna get started in a sec. All right. Let's see. Okay, so let me first just jump into some small few things we need to talk about first, and then is this the right stream? Some few things we need to talk about first, and then we'll cover the software side. Just need to make sure guys in the group are together. Yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, here we go. Let's get started. So I'm going to jump to the corner and we can talk about the full bouncing ball animation. And if you guys remember the stuff we talked about, if you guys remember the stuff we talked about in the previous presentation, it was about the mechanics of the bouncing ball, why we're doing it, and all the stuff we need to pay attention to as we're doing our as we're doing our animation. So this time we're going to take all that stuff we've talked about. Hopefully you've had some time to brew, let that stuff make a bit more sense, and hopefully you've found a way to also integrate it into your workflow. So now, if you have any questions, or maybe if something wasn't clear, this would be a good opportunity for you to clear it up. So yeah. So I had a quick question for the geniuses in our audience. Which of you've just decided to design a new computer system? You're tired of Windows 11, and I mean, you had the rumors that Windows 10 was supposed to be the last one. Now there's Windows 11. You're mad, even though that was misinformation. You're still mad that they're gonna make another version, so you decide to make your own. When it comes to setting up hotkeys, which one is more user-friendly? So on one side we have copy being Control-C, cut being Control-Shift-C, paste being Control-P, and undo being Control-U. And that's just basically tying the letter, just the first letter of the action to the same key. And then we have the standard stuff that we're used to on this other side, which is Control-C to copy, Control-X to cut, Control V to paste, and Control Z to undo. So as you're building this system of yours, which of these two options would you consider to be user-friendly? 60. Um, and then this is where we ask, but why are we even asking this question? It's actually important. So it's really debatable. In some sense, we could say one side is more user friendly. In another sense, we could say the other side is more user friendly. But in the most obvious sense, Control C, Control X, Control V, Control Z as the hotkeys are most definitely the most user friendly way. Mainly because this is the best way to get. This is what people are used to in all softwares. Granted, on Mac it's still command, but it's still treated the same way. But oh yes, good point as well. Um, there's This is what people are used to, and this is what the system is, and trying to change it is not user friendly. It means now people are going to have to relearn what they already know in order to interact with your software or interact with what you're making. So yes, column number 2 is better, and it's also based on, as Kev has pointed out quite well, it's all the keys are together. Control C, X, V, and Z are all together on the keyboard, which puts all those operations in the same place. So even though they're not all the same letter, like undo is not U anymore, at least we have all these common actions just right here. So which also could be considered user friendly. Anyway, it's something I read in a book a while back, and just trying to understand what that means, I think may not may not be relevant to the bouncing ball, but it's just a nice thought I had. So let's talk about what's actually happening today, which is we'll just do a Blender overview. We'll take a look at the rig, and then we'll look at how to animate the bouncing ball rig. Just a quick recap. We talked about there's a bunch of bouncing balls you can do. There's the one in place, bounces to the same height, and it's a loop. And then you have the heavy versus light ball, which is just two balls falling with different interactions once they hit the ground. And then you also have what we're doing today, which is a ball bouncing across the screen. So this one is a bit more interesting because we're trying to match it to footage, and we're also trying to customize it in a way because we also want the ball to fit within our frame as it bounces across, and we also want it to slow down realistically without spoiling our parabolas. So that's actually something we're going to look at. We also we also looked at some examples of some really cool animations that have been done. Something you guys can try out if the bouncing ball is too simple for you. You could try this out as well. But we'll also take a look at the parabola sequence that we have talked about. Like I said, the whole thing of the ball slowing down as it goes from left to right can actually lead to our parabolas being skewed in one direction. So we're going to take a look at how exactly that happens and how to fix it. And all this stuff is just going to come about of it. I don't think I'll have to intentionally cause these problems. As we go along, it's just going to manifest. So remember, the parabolas are gravity and momentum. We're going to start with the keyframes. We're going to add in-betweens to define the action. The speeding up, losing energy, slowing down at the top, maintaining the parabola, making sure it's not to one side or the other. We find the problems in those keys and in-betweens. We fix them again. Make sure everything is working the way we expect, and then we can say we've successfully done a bouncing ball animation. It's I guess it's a lot easier said than done. We'll also work with some squash and stretch just so I can show how it works with the rig. I think it would be better if I just did it with squash and stretch, so I don't have to do two versions. But with or without, I think generally the workflow is going to be the same. I had mentioned in the other video that where squash and stretch makes things different is here, the contact points. We have 3 frames that need to be there. The contact for when it touches down, the squash completely squashed, and then the stretch as it leaves the ground. It's actually debatable whether you need this keyframe here on this side. Yeah, it's debated whether you really need to have that there. But we're just gonna whoops. Oh, whoa. We're just gonna let's see, do not disturb. Oh my goodness. Of all things. I should actually switch it off on my phone. Let's see. It is off. Huh, that's weird. Okay. Is there do not disturb here? Yes. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so that's what that's what needs to happen there. So we can jump into Blender and start to look at what we can do with the ball. So let's see. What am I looking for here? Link. I need to link the rig, right? So file, link, recent. Seems a bit laggy. Let's see, bouncing ball, character, ball. And then we go collection, character, ball. Ooh, I need to do 1.35. Should just make things bigger, so hopefully it looks okay on the stream. So I go to character, it's gonna be brought in. I can Alt G just to center it, and then I'll create the ground. So which way should I look at it from? This way. And I can tab. And I'm basically just creating the floor where the ball is going to bounce across. It would also be important right now to add in the footage as well. So I'll add video editing. And I can, how will I import? I can just open the folder where the, let's see, ball. Oops. Something weird's going on. It's really slow. It's really slow for some reason. Right, and so the footage is there, and this is the stabilized footage that I had shown before. So it should keep the ground in the same place so that we can just keep an eye on exactly what's happening in the animation. For now, I'm actually not going to do the full 100 frames. I think it should actually be 89. So let me just switch here, and I'll show you this, which is basically the planning I've done based on the video footage. And what I've done is just like I mentioned in the other presentation before, I've measured the height of the ball, how high it's bouncing, how far across it's going, and within I've also set at which frames each of these moments are happening as it bounces across. And then here is just a guide of which direction the ball is facing in terms of how it's spinning as it bounces. And it's just a little arrow indication. I'm going to just rough it in. It doesn't really have to be exact. And then down here, I've just written a heads up for myself, which is just some quick notes of stuff I need to keep an eye on as I'm working. And this is just stuff I realized as I was watching the footage and doing the timing and all this stuff. You just write some notes down there so that you know, when you're now balls deep in this work and you're really trying to focus on what you're doing, you just really want to have just these here so that you don't forget. You know, sometimes you can do something and you're like, I should have thought of this sooner. I should have written it down, and that's what's down there. So the main thing actually I'm looking at is the height of the bounces and the frames where those bounces are happening. Right, so this actually takes more time than the actual animation itself. So take as much time as you can into studying the footage that you select and make sure you know where all the frames, where things are landing, which direction they're facing, and so on. So I'll go back to full screen. Oops, to little me in the corner, and I'll move the time. I guess I'm blocking it, so I'll move it like this. Yeah. And are we ready to get started? Not yet. We need to move this also this way. And the good thing with the ball rig is that it's actually 1 unit big. So it can become very easy to just move it up a certain amount based on the measurements I took. Uh, yeah. So let's just quickly take a look at the ball rig and the controls it has. I've linked this in, so I need to create a library override. So I'll just press space, make library, make library override, and it looked like nothing really happens, but now when I select, I can switch over to pose mode. And when you're in pose mode, you'll see the controls actually colored. They have colors, and each control is actually very specific. And when it comes to how we're going to keyframe them, it's very important to keep an eye on what we're putting where. And I'll just quickly explain why. So the main control we need, you can see when you select anything up here in the top left, it shows you the name of the object or control you have selected. Right now I have main. Inside that there's another one called rotation, so you can see as I select, the name changes, and you can kind of figure out what it does based on the name. So root is just where 0 is, where the ball is going to start, and you never animate this control, it's just there to place it when you get started. Then you have just a quick tip with root, you want to keep it on the ground. So if your ball is going to start in the air, you can just put the root on the ground and then move the ball itself up. That's mainly so that when you want to bring the ball back down to the ground, you can just set that control to 0 and it'll just instantly go down to the ground. If the root is in the air, it can become a bit messy. Then we have the main control. This is what we'll use to move the guy around. We actually won't put any rotation on this because there's a dedicated control for rotation. I'll show you why that is. If you're using squash and stretch, actually it's entirely because of squash and stretch. So if you're using squash and stretch, you can rotate the main control. But if you're not particularly digging that, or if you intend to use squash and stretch, then you'll have to use this other control, the blue one, which is rotation. So there's also a couple of squash and stretch controls I should probably cover before I even show why those are separated. So I'll just quickly hide the ground and select this guy again. Go to pose mode, and we have the big arrow, which is what you scale. You're gonna scale it up and down to do your squash and stretch like this, and then you can also rotate it to change the direction it happens. So you can see the texture on the ball is actually staying stuck, right? Then there's another control up here, which is stretch top. It lets you do this. You can move this guy around, which is pretty handy. And then there's stretch bottom, which does exactly the same thing. They're both parented to this control, so I find most of the time I'd rather just work with this one and then just use these as just slight tweaks to, maybe add just little details to it, but I'd try and keep these ones zeroed out. That should be it. Okay. Okay. So why would you want to only use this rotation? So if we rotate this and scale it up like this, the rotation is going to just rotate the texture. So we can just peacefully rotate this without worrying about the squash and stretch being affected. If you use the main, you'll see it also moves with the squash and stretch control. So if we put our bounce here, adding that squash is going to be difficult. So if you're ever going to animate a ball or something, that's why we say If you're gonna use squash and stretch, just decide early so that you can keep this in mind and just track where you're putting your keyframes. But at the end of the day, you can also just move over the keyframes. If worst comes to worst, you can just grab all the rotation keyframes from one control and just copy them over to the other one, right? But anyway, if you shouldn't have to do that, then don't. So I'll switch the ground back on and look at my planning and start to animate the ball. So right here it says at frame 1 it's 5 balls high, so I'll grab the main, grab the mover, and here I'll just set this oops, this is not After Effects, up is Z, so let's do 5. And is that really 5? That's 1, 2.5. So I actually need to go to 10. So it's actually twice, because the control is in the middle, I guess. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, it's actually double. That kind of sucks. Especially since it's technically polygon pattern. Okay, the volume. Oh yeah, you can also change the style of the ball. I kind of forgot about that. So if you go to collections, you can change to, say, you need to do this. So there's a soccer ball, there's this 6-sided ball, there is a beach ball, and a striped ball. But I like the soccer ball. Alright, so yeah, 5 units up, and I need to make sure I'm at frame 0. I have the main control selected, so I'll right click here and choose Insert Keyframes. And then here under keying, I'll set the active keying set to available, and then I'll switch on the auto key. So what I've just done down here with the keying set is that if you have auto key on and you just start moving stuff around, like if I grab this camera and move it, it's going to set a keyframe, and I don't want that. I want it to only set keyframes on controls that I've already set an initial keyframe on. So to do that, I'll go to over here on the side. You just select right on the timeline. Let me move this up so you can see it. Right on the timeline, you can go keying and choose available here. If you're using a rig, like a really big character rig, you can choose whole character, and that'll just key everything. If you just touch one control, it's just going to key everything, which can be useful in its moment. So, but that's not what we need right now. What we need is a bouncing ball. So frame 1, we've set a key only on location, no rotation, and then our next keyframe is at 11. So I'll go to 11, put the ball on the ground, and I'm not too sure on the distance. The distance was a bit tricky because of the perspective it was in, so I'm gonna kind of eyeball it for the most part. I kind of did the same thing last time and regretted it, but right now while trying to figure this out, I just felt like the bounces were, from the perspective we're looking at, the bounces were a bit tricky to figure out. So I'm just gonna flex and try and do it myself. But if I'd still advise that you do the same, that you actually do it properly. So next is frame 22, and it goes up by 3.5 balls, which is 7. And then we go down to another method I had seen was someone would just do all the up and downs on one spot, and then now add those keyframes that move it across with time. So either way, it really works. What we're really aiming for right now is the timing and the height. So at 22, it's going to be at 3.5. At 31, it'll be back on the ground. and I'll move it over a bit. So maybe let me give the x a reasonable amount. So this will be -6. It shouldn't be minus, it should be plus, but it's okay. This can be, this is up, so we probably want it to be just whatever is the middle of those two. So I'll go here, 31, and set it to, that was -6. We can't really do -12 because that'll be double. We just need it to slow down a bit. So I'll do -10. So if it's gone from -6 to -10, the middle of that is what? 8. So -8. So boing, boing. Whoops. No, that doesn't make sense. -6. That's gone by 2. That's gone by 2. Okay, so the keys are already acting weird. That's gonna be fun to clean up. So before this is also the other thing now, before I start thinking about how that path looks weird, I need to fix it. I need to concentrate on doing the planning I've done here, which is to get all these keyframes in. So I have 31, next is 39. And at 39, it's at 6. Before it was 7, now it's 6. Then just keep going, basically. So if you guys have any questions or about how far we've come as I punch these guys in, feel free to ask. So this is 10. This we've said it can't double. It can't go up by 6. It went up by 6 the first time. Now it's gone up by 4, so now you can take it up by 2. So let's make this -12. And again, I'm really just guessing here. I actually don't even need to do that kind of math. I think I might even just be better off just doing what I had said before, just doing the up and down in one spot and then adding the across. Because I realize now if I mess up how I'm diminishing this thing, I'm gonna have to still change all of them again to fix it. Okay, so anyway, focus. 49, it's on the ground. Let's go to 57. That's going to be 2.5, which is 5. And then I'll go to 63. 63 is down. And then, I'm actually doing the in-betweens at the same time. No, these are the keys. It's okay. So this is 4. And then 77, 0. And then 83. I feel like I'm filling in an Excel sheet. Like, you know those these guys are Uchumi punching in how did I just say Uchumi? Jeez. The guys at the supermarket trying to typing in the code. I'm kind of channeling that right now. Frame 83 is 1.5, which is 3. And then frame 89 is going to be 0. All right, so as we've looked so far, we already know this is going to look pretty terrible. But something interesting we can notice already is you can see the keyframes themselves are getting closer together as we go with time. The gaps between them is closing, so that's definitely a good sign because the bounces are definitely closer together as it loses energy. So we can already tell that this is going in the right direction in terms of timing, but of course autotangent is going to do some silly stuff and it's going to look really bad. So what I'll just do to quickly fix my little shortcut of not measuring the time is I'm just gonna use the graph editor and use the X location. this is the thing I don't like about Blender's graph editor. If I want to see X alone, I have to go and do this, which kind of sucks. Like, imagine if I had way more channels than this, it would be really messy. So you can see here I had the thing kind of going on. Now I'm getting bumps here. So what I'll do is just go to the end, which is frame 89. For some reason there's no keyframe there, so just press I, all channels, and I'll just delete everything in between. I kind of need this key here because that's the one I started measuring with. So I'll do this, delete keyframes, and then I'll move this guy. Why? Yes. I'll try and just continue this line down. So if the line is going like this, it'll probably end somewhere down here. So GZ, maybe something like that. And now, technically speaking, it should just bounce and then go and slow down near the end. Let's see. Oops, I need to remove this. So yeah, looks really bad, doesn't it? But as you can see now, it's going and it's slowing down near the end. It's definitely slowing down too much. As you can see, the curve is just going down. It's actually reaching the end somewhere over here, even if the keyframe is like way back here. So we'll definitely have to fix that. That's why I'll definitely have to like just give each of these individual position values. Or I could just go grab these, go T, linear, and now it'll go and just stop at the end. But like I said, I don't like messing around with these tangents. So what I'll actually do is try and lock them down. So where this is now, I'll just hit I. I should do it up here. I hit I, it sets a keyframe. Go here, press I again. And I'll just do that until all the spots have keyframes. It should be on 89, so let me delete this one. Yeah, so now it's continuous like this. So if I T and set it to Bezier, it'll Bezier this part, but these other ones are just going to stay generally a straight line. You can't really see because of the dots in between, but should be not okay. I have my doubts whether that's going to be okay. Let me leave them as linear for now. Okay. So last time we had talked about creating motion paths to help us see what's happening. I think that would most definitely be helpful. Because as much as I'd like to get the parabolas in perfectly on my own, I think it would be a bit ridiculous to spend a lot of time here, and we can just do that and try and visualize them. And remember, what's important here is the timing is exactly what it needs to be. The time when it hits the ground and the time when it hits the apex of the curve, those timings I can't touch. But now I want to start working the in-between so that I can now make it start looking like it's a proper bouncing ball and not just a wavy ball. And there's a few ways we can do that. And the most important thing really is to just get those parabolas going. To make sure at the bottom where it hits the ground, it looks like it's a sharp corner like this. And then at the top, it's taking a nice curve. And at the same time, we also need to check the spacing between all these dots just to make sure, as much as we have a parabola, there's also a way that they are speeding up at the bottom. The ball speeds up at the bottom and slows down at the top. And you know, there's a bunch of different ways to do that. But let's just keep going. So naturally, we need to have our reference in now as well, so we can get a proper gist of what it's supposed to look like. You can go as much as doing it like this. One of my teachers actually told me if you could get this footage here and you just literally trace it, you're sorted. You're pretty much done. But I wouldn't advise that because scale changes, and when it comes to like doing a walk, your character is going to have different proportions from your reference. So when you come down to doing it that way, you might struggle a bit just because you're used to copying footage. So let's take a look at what's happening between these two keys. Just noticed my footage is not exactly synced. My first bounce is at frame 11, but here the footage has not moved yet. So I can just grab this here and move it down until it touches the ground. So and it's sort of like doing a clapper. You're just finding that frame where it lines up. So I think I had mentioned before that there's this footage doesn't have an actual contact pose, because here it's above and here it's above, here it's already bounced. So we don't actually have the frame where it touches the ground, which kind of sucks. But now those small little frame differences, I think those are what you start to notice when you're comparing like mocap and just proper clean animation. Okay, so let's work on this. So we can now see the contacts are in the right spot. They move together. Apex down. Yep. Apex down. So yeah, the timing is the same, yet the animations are doing two completely different things. So that change in speed is what we really need to make sure we are showing. And we need to do it by adding keyframes and positioning the ball where we need it, as opposed to messing around with the graph. So I actually won't do too much work in the graph. We're just going to focus on adding keyframes, because remember, we're adding in betweens. So we need to work on this path, which is, you can see how long does it actually take to get like halfway. And at this point, the ball is already, my ball down here is already like past halfway for sure. But this one here looks like halfway is about here, frame 7. So what I can do is either work on this specific frame after or before. So for me, I think it's going to be before. I need to add this delay up here. So I'll go to like frame 4 or so and just move it up along the path. And then yeah, now it's looking a bit better. About frame 7 now, it's slightly higher than it was before. So now let's see the frame where it hits the ground. Just before this frame, there's like a little turn it's doing. There's a little turn it's doing there, which is really bad. So we can add this keyframe like this. We're just basically just putting the ball exactly where we want it to be. And then again, the frame right after, it shouldn't be at the same height as this. It should be slightly lower. Let's just try and get that angle right. So you see, just like last time, by adding this keyframe here, the 12, you can see the spacing here is kind of already working. You can already see how the ball is starting a bit fast and then it's slowing down based on the spacing between those keyframes. So we can still like come over here to this key, maybe go back a bit. And you can see actually on this one, by about this point, it's like already hitting the apex. the ball on the left. So let's try get this guy higher. So somewhere here can be a little bit higher. Hovers a bit, and then just about the same number of frames on the other side. So this is 1, 2, 3. So we do 1, 2, 3. Try and get it just about the same spot, so that it's symmetrical. And just by doing those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keyframes, we've already started to get that bouncing ball feel. So I hope that's made sense so far. You guys are still there, right? So, okay, that's one way to get this sort of parabola here. That's like the old school way of doing things, where we're just adding more extra frames and then making it work. There's a bit of a flaw to this actually. This frame here could actually end up being a bit higher. This one we might be able to also make it a bit higher. So there's still some little variables that are still going to affect how we're animating this ball. But the cool thing is now we're also gaining some form of control by changing where this 10 is. This frame 10, we're changing how hard the ball appears to be hitting the ground. And you also recall I said I'd do it with squash and stretch. We need to do that as well. So I'll grab this control, rotate it to match scale, and I just want to do it just a little bit, just enough to just show some hint of squash and stretch happening. So I'll do this guy's rotation and scale. Looks like they're already keyed. So we go here, hit I. It's actually keying everything, like even the main controls and position. Squash this up, and then one good frame 12. Point at the path, and now you see we're kind of clipping through the ground. So that definitely means that these frames are too close together. Oh wait, no, I've kind of scaled it too much also. This is also where I was saying now it becomes debatable on whether we actually need this keyframe touching the ground. So let me do this instead. Path has gone kind of wonky, so let's fix that as well. Oh, because I've changed this now. I've kind of changed where this 19 needs to be and where this 25 needs to be. So maybe adding that squash and stretch now wasn't the best idea. So just delete these. Recalculate the paths. Okay. So you can kind of see it's reaching before. So let's do T Bezier just to make sure everything is clean. And for now, this other one, I'll show you how to do, let's say with the paths method. So this other bounce at 31, we'll use the tangent method. So let me just scale this back down. Oh, looks like this is affecting the path. No, it's not. Yeah. So hope you guys are keeping up. And I'm not just ranting hapa. So let's see what we can do about this, fixing it within the graph editor instead of using keyframes. So I'll pull this up, pull this down a bit, and let's show main. can show all the controls. So this X is okay. My issue is on this Z. I really hate that I have to do that. Yeah. So like this graph basically looks exactly like the motion path that we have here. So it should be a lot easier just to fix whatever's going on. So you can see this guy here is just ridiculous. So let's do there's something I've not done right, because it shouldn't be doing this. Aha, okay. So the other way to do it is the old school way, which is, or not the old school way, but the more technical way, which is to change the types of keyframes. So you can see this path here is being affected by, it's also kind of being affected by what's happening here, because if I move this, no, it doesn't. Oof, damn, Blender acts really weird actually, sometimes. What I can do is change this to be, what's this called? It can stay as Bezier, but if I press V, I can change the type of keyframe it is. Sorry, I can change how the handles of the keyframes are controlled. So what I should actually do here is try to change this to automatic. That just does God knows what. Oh my god. Auto clamped. And auto clamped. Yes, that's what I wanted. I'm not too sure why it's doing this though. So here we can go V, free. I can grab this guy and do this. And then I can grab this guy and do this. And I'm basically just creating this same shape. But this also has now its own disadvantages, which is that I no longer have this level of control where I can decide where frame 10 is and where frame 12 is. Here you can kind of see where they are, but it's now becomes a matter of playing around with this, hitting update, and just making sure that this point is above this one. So this is really why I don't like doing with the graph editor like this. Is this playing? No. Oh, and then I have to click update every time, so that's also a bit annoying. But I think once you really have the hang of how a bouncing ball should look and how the parabola should be moving, then you can pretty much just do everything in the graph editor. But still, I'd strongly recommend that you just do this in with keyframes. So there's a bit of weirdness going on here. I think this is leaning to the right a bit. So we need to fix that. Let's go to X location, press home, and grab all these guys. And I think I should just leave it as linear. So see what's happened there. But I'll also, what I want to do is I want from 11 to 31 for it to be just one straight line. If this here like changes drastically somewhere in between, like let's look at this bounce here. If this line and this line don't have the same slope, then the path is going to be off to one side or the other, as you can see here. Now it's on that side. So to fix that, I can actually just delete this. I just delete all the keyframes that are in the middle when the ball is in the air, so that way they're just interpolated by the comp. And that way I can always be sure it's exactly in the middle. But as I delete these keyframes, I can kind of see the line is not changing much. So the tricky part is here where this 12 is what's causing this curve. There's a difference between what 12 should be and what 24 should be, and it's an X thing. So an X thing. It's definitely the X positioning that's getting messed up. So I'll just do doop doop doop, and then goes up. So the X position here is wrong. It's definitely this. So I need to try and reposition it so that it's just continuing the line. That should be it. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to get this line here to continue. It's mainly because of this is 10, this is 11. 11 it's staying on the ground, and then 12 it's in the air. So by this 12 it should already be moving a bit. So maybe I can grab these two, move them together. Okay. Man, I've been using Maya for the last few weeks, so I'm struggling I'm struggling a bit with the hotkeys. It's okay. In fact, I should actually just delete these two, because they're obviously the cause of the issue. There we go. This means it's speeding up, and then this means it's slowing down. I think the number of keyframes aren't making sense. This is 11 frames. This is there's an extra one on this side. Okay. So probably have to get back to that. Yeah, I'll come back to it. So there's a second bounce. I think for 4963 I'll just do the graph editor method. The other downside of the graph editor way is when we do it this way, we can set our squash and stretch on these two keyframes. But now, because we're doing it to the graph, we're gonna have to just put the squash and stretch just on its own thing. So like here is where I'd just do this and just set keyframe. There's 30. And then you know what else is crazy? It's when you do this squash and stretch, you raise the ball. It's not touching the ground anymore. So we could move the root down. Oh no, because the squash changes based on how hard it's hitting the ground. So we actually should just leave the root there. But I hope you can see it's kind of coming together. As much as I had said don't use the graph, here I am using the graph, but it's proving to work nicely. I don't like this, that this is happening here. This needs to look symmetrical. This and these should be the same. These two should be the same. These two should be the same. So it's squashing up here is kind of breaking up, and that's breaking the parabola, and you can already see obviously. And so is that this here or this here? And yeah, it's actually this keyframe down here. So if I go down to Z location, you'll see, yeah, if I actually change this to free and just fix what that should be, you can really kind of see it's sloping differently on either side. So let's do this. Scale. Auto clamp, scale, free. Update paths. Okay, see, these two keys are together, so that's not good. Let's push this higher and push this lower. So you can see it becomes very, very easy to break your parabolas, mainly because of interpolation, how interpolation works, starting to mess around with these tangents. And you can see the mistake is now kind of trickling down and going onward into all these other frames. So we'll have quite a bit of cleanup to do. I think I'll just remove this entirely. This question stretch is not doing me any favors. Yeah, here you can definitely feel it speeding up as it comes down. Okay, so for these last bounces, I'll do it the old school way. Right, let's go back here. So there it hits the ground, so let's just do this. Oops. Why did this one move? Let's see, let's do... Alright, so still keeping up, I hope. I'm just zooming here. I'm gonna move this in time actually. Update. Yeah, actually, I think the irregularity in timing, in the number of frames it's working with, might be messing things up here. Because this is definitely a problem. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's definitely helped. And this is it, guys. This is what the bouncing ball is about. Fixing these parabolas and getting them to work right is what makes it what it is. So here it's kind of skiing a bit, so let's see what's happening here. So any questions so far? Anybody? You guys still there? So definitely having a big problem with these parabolas. It looks like it's doing each side differently. I don't know why. It seems like a blender thing. Definitely not that. Definitely not. Okay. Right, so old school way. So you see, as soon as I move this, everything just changes. Check this out. That's really strange. I don't know why Blender is doing that. So delete these I didn't need. It's definitely 39. Okay. So slow out at the top. This frame rate hits the ground. We need to make it come in the way we've said before. So it looks like it's going. We can even use the reference and say it's falling by like half a ball's height in this frame. So let's try do that. If that's the ball down there, it goes half the ball's height like that. Why is this moving? Because of sorry guys, I shouldn't have removed the X. So corporate logo animation, what is the best approach? Just ask them what they want and what they like, and try and give it to them. Especially if you're doing more graph or such things. Like I said in the script writing one, you want to find out what they want, what they like, and then try and inject your own artistic thing into it. And I know what you're thinking, no, but I'm an artist. I want to have full creative control and do everything my way. But unfortunately, you could do that, but inevitably, they're going to ask for crazy feedback or I mean, everyone has some kind of expectation, and I think if you can learn how to get that expectation out of them, you can at least build your new idea based on the approach they are thinking about, or the kind of thing they're thinking about, so that when the feedback comes back, they're not telling you, oh wait, actually we don't like blue, or we don't like that specific style you've chosen. So and then it becomes an issue. So yeah, let me focus on the bounce points only, because I think if I get the bounces right, all these other guys should fall in place. So 10 is up here. Let's try and keep this one slightly lower. I'll put it on the actual line, and then this I'll put right below it, and then we go to the next bounce. That's the top, so this is the next bounce. Let's go frame before what this way needs to be. It was on this line, so slightly below, and then slightly below that one. So it's still looking, wow. I'm really shocked as to why Blender is doing this sort of thing here. We can definitely see the keys on this side are more than here, but wait, 1 2 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's just that one frame is making a difference. So these two should be the same, yeah. These two the same, these two, these two, these two, these two, these two. So around here, so it's definitely on this left side where things are getting messed up. So that's good to know. So let's keep going with these other bounces, and then now that we know it's the air bits that are messed, we can fix that. So again, this is also the workflow you'd use if you are doing squash and stretch, because you need to put these 3 frames here. Yeah, this is the ground. I see what I've done wrong. I see what I have done wrong. I was moving them in X. I should not have done that. Because now I'm messing up. Yeah, actually I think that's a mistake I'm making. I'm moving them in X as I'm doing this. Yeah, see, these ones I just move them up and down and the frames are looking okay. So yeah, it's actually entirely my fault. So let me try and fix that. So these guys, let's go to, yeah, we're still on X. So home. What I mean is, when I was repositioning this, I should have just moved it up, and I shouldn't have moved it left and right, because now that's adding these bumps here, which are probably what's causing the issue I'm experiencing. Hopefully, really just hoping that that's why. So I'll just delete these on either side and then update. Nope. But actually, you know what? I'm also relying on the motion parts. I should actually just try and watch it and see how it actually looks. So render, I'll change my output to, doesn't matter really, but I can change this to FFmpeg, and then do view, viewport render animation, and this will just render the viewport. At least I don't have to, it doesn't have to do all the keyframes. Well, I'm working with the notes I had from previous interactions. What did they tell you, dude? Like, what do they want? Do they not know what they want? Do they want to be like INM? Do they want to be like Safaricom? They must have something going on. If not, I'd say try and see what kind of business it is. Look up what those businesses, what other businesses of the kind are doing, and try and go in that direction. I wouldn't say copy, but just try and go in that direction. Right, once that's done, we'll go render and choose view animation. And that's just gonna open a player inside Blender with the ball. Okay, it's not looking bad. It's not looking too bad actually. There's a bit of a pop. It's not looking too bad. It still feels a bit even. It feels like that acceleration downwards is not really happening. It just feels like it still feels like it's waving up and down. It doesn't really feel like it's posing in the air or really coming down fast. So there's one change I can do that's going to fix both of those problems, and that'll be like what we've noticed. If you change a keyframe in one spot, it seems to change everything around it. So we'll take advantage of that, and let's switch parts back on, and we just basically, the keyframes, since the timing is still staying the same, we have to figure out a way to just redistribute all these points. Yeah, the number of points are going to stay the same. What we're changing is how they're distributed along that path, and that's what's going to give it that slowdown at the top and the speed up at the bottom. Why it's looking so even is because the gaps between here, you can you can really see the gaps are changing, but especially on this bounce, not really by that much. Um, so we really need to start showing that slow down as it goes up and speed up as it goes down. And I'm going to keep in mind what I've learned from here, which is when I'm changing the position, I need to change only the Y and not the X, because I guess the X, I've already pretty much figured it out, and it needs to stay the way it is. The thing is also, though, that the X is just one continuous line. If you look here, it's just one continuous line, but if you really think about it, it should be curving, but in a staggered sort of way. Like here, the distance it covers for this last bounce should not be the same distance as this. The slopes are the same, so they're going to end up being the same thing. So to fix that, I'll like just basically grab every other. Oh no, I really shouldn't do that right now. That sounds like a bad idea. Yeah, I really shouldn't do that right now. Mainly because I need to add these in betweens first. So let's go a few frames back, and we'll squeeze up the frames by just pushing this up slightly, and then going here, and we'll just push them up just a little bit. And you'll notice I'm also not looking at the footage as much. At this point now, we're kind of looking at how it feels and just trying to get that feel to feel right. I could also crank up the spacing down here just a little bit. So let's go to this. Just really now, principle of exaggeration. Whoops! I did it again, guys. I moved them in X. It needs to be in Y only, in Z only. Yeah, because that's what will clamp the shape to a curve. So yeah, now we're starting to get that parabola. 48 is out of position, which means this is also out of position. Okay, remember this is the top of the bounce, so yeah, so learn from my mistake, guys. Do not touch the X once you have something going across. So here I can kind of tell it's just immediately starting to go down, so I'll just push this up a bit so that it doesn't go down instantly like that. So you see, just by doing that, the parabola is coming, it's coming. In fact, I'm getting it more from adjusting these down here than those up there. Because it's the same thing, it's just redistributing those points along the path, so it's just kind of working out on its own. This is higher than this, that shouldn't be happening, but that should be okay for now. So let's go switch this off. View, viewport render animation. I can kind of see it already there, the spacing there, the spacing is small, and then it goes big spacing, small spacing. Ooh, I kinda saw it just suddenly start coming down there. That was definitely wrong. Right, once that's done, render, view animation. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's definitely feeling a lot more punchy as it's hitting the ground, and the air bits are a bit more cleaner. I feel like these bounces feel a bit triangular. They're not really curved at the top, especially this one happening here, that one. So I need to keep an eye on that, which is frame 58. It's the same one, I'm sure. The last one I did. This one here is wrong. Yeah, it just feels like it's just suddenly coming down. So let's grab this. Let's go to Z, press home, and you can see, yeah, there's just some shenanigans going on here. So yeah, look at that. So let's go V, auto clamped. I can probably just grab this one and scale it down. That should actually just fix the issue. Yeah, I really like how this one feels. It definitely feels like it's really speeding up to hit the ground. So yeah, for the most part, I think we could say this guy is almost done. What I need to add now is those rotations. So let's go into here and grab this guy, which is rotation, yes. And I'll just look for my notes again. Yeah, they are. So like I said, I have these arrows to show just a general direction of how the ball is bouncing. And what I'm going to do is press R and try and get this plus here to match up with the arrow that I had drawn. So the first one is about there. Frame 11. I'll rotate to face to the right. That. And then frame 22. You can actually just, I could probably just go to the last frame and then just count the number of rotations. So let's see, that's 1.5. So it spins like 1.5 times. So let's go here and just do, so it had done, so 1 and a 1 and a little bit like that. So that should do it. Did I put it on quaternions? I probably did. When it's on quaternions, it'll just go straight to that rotation. No, it's definitely spinning. Okay, so let's go view. Wait, I need to switch these off. Deselect, view, viewport render. Yeah, now we got it spinning. The spinning looks okay. There was the one thing that I've kind of skipped out on here is that the graph shouldn't look the way I drew it. The graph for X should kind of look like a slope. It should slope down, but it should be a slope made of a bunch of straight lines. That's what's going to help the parabolas kind of squish and get smaller as they go along. Right now what I just have is a straight line, so it kind of looks like it's just one continuous motion. If I was going to do it properly, the rotations, if I was going to do that X squeezing up a bit better, the rotations that I've done here, which are more specific, would be way more accurate and way more useful, because the way the rotations are falling off is also, it's spinning less as it goes along, so that effect also needs to be included, which I've kind of left out, so too bad, I guess. View, let's see how this has gone. So cool, it's looking like a legit bouncing ball so far. Still some weirdness here. I feel like around here it's like it hits a wall that's now forcing it to come back down. And there's also a bit of a slide over here. It slides just a little bit when it hits the ground. So maybe I can try Maybe I can try fix the X stuff before we call it. But generally speaking, that's pretty much all that goes into a bouncing ball if you're gonna do it yourself. The cool thing with doing it now this way is we can now put the same, those squash and stretch things that we were talking about, we can now put them on the same frames as where we've put these, and everything else will kind of just work itself out. Let's see. So should I try fix the X thing here? This bounce here is just really bad. It's gonna bother me. But you know what, guys? If you can at least get the speed up and the slowdown, and you get that right, then all this stuff about the slopes looking weird, we can kind of fix it as we go along. Because the animation isn't completely done, and there's still opportunities to clean things up. Let's see. So you can see my X has just gotten really messy. Do I really want to touch these things? I really feel like I might mess it up. Okay, let's just try anyway. So what I'll do instead is this. I'll remove these companions. These that are not on keyframes. So this doesn't need to be here. Cause yeah, if the speed horizontally is constant, then it means anytime the ball is not on the right place in the parabola, it's all just about the height. It has nothing to do with the X. So I really need to try as much as possible not to touch this X. That is, not touch it when I'm doing the in-betweens. So these go. That stays. These two go. And you noticed I've actually deleted and added a lot of keyframes and just changed my mind. That's just something you'd get used to doing. Don't get too married to stuff you've done. So let's try and slow this down. So what I'll do, I'll go here, bounce goes up, and bounce. So let me try delete this. That's where it's not. Is it updating? It's not. So I'll just keep the keyframes for when the ball is on the ground. And then I'll just progressively kill these slopes. Update. Yeah, now they've squeezed up. So same thing, view. Oops, let me switch this off. View, viewport render animation. And yeah, so hopefully you guys have gotten the general gist of how a bouncing ball animation is done. So you just keep going, keep refining, keep looking for those little tiny mistakes, those moments that just don't seem to be making sense. Keep an eye on the reference footage as well, just to make sure those squishes at the top and the bounces at the bottom are making sense. You can also use the method I use, which is you look at the ball, how far the ball has moved in a certain number of frames to help you see what the change is. and how far to push stuff. Did I choose the wrong thing? I did. Render view animation. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Looking way better now for sure. If you have any more questions, just feel free to post them in the comments. But that's pretty much it for this bouncing ball video. So go ahead, grab your own videos, grab your own footage, try your hand at doing this animation. If you think you've got what it takes, which I'm sure you do, try and do it with the squash and stretch, and get it to look nice and tasty. Just keep in mind with squash and stretch, you may have to add just a few more in betweens to just add some fleshiness to how the ball is moving. But yeah, generally speaking, that's pretty much it. So if you don't have any questions, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Available. Do you prefer XYZ or quaternions? I prefer XYZ for sure, mainly because you can see them here. They're a bit easier to work with. Quaternions, you have to do like two axes at once to get what you want. But at least with XYZ, you can just go to the specific axis you want. The other issue with that is also quaternions, it goes to the shortest, it takes the shortest distance from one point to another. So if you have a ball and you turn it, let's say, instead of turning it 360 degrees, you turn it 340 degrees. When it animates, the Nini will take, the software will take the shortest path and actually go this way. It won't go round this way the way you'd want it to. It will just go the shortest path there. So that's only good for like arms, making arms. Oops. That's only good for like making arms move around and without worrying about numbers getting messed up. But yeah, quaternions can get pretty messy. Okay. Rotation, squeeze it up, and then go here. RS. Skin it down a bit. And go here. Rotate. Scale down a bit. Yep. The exact same approach can be used for literally anything. Hard surface, walk cycles. Pretty much, yeah. When you get to a point where this is, you're just gonna be doing this on all animations in just like a slightly bigger way. Okay, and then there, scale down, there, scale down a bit, and then you can stop squashing and stretching now. Yeah, Alt S. Oops, there's still quite a bit, so I'll leave it and go like that. And then now I need to reset it in the middle. So here should be no scale. So you can kind of see it stretching out. No scale there. No scale. No scale. No rotation. Okay. So as you can see, I like to do everything one at a time. Like I'm not gonna fix the Y just yet. I just want to make sure this squash and stretch is making sense. And then now I can come and make sure here it's actually touching the ground. Oops. Yeah, so from then on it should be okay. Save. I've not saved. Whoa, 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 whoa. Bro, if this was mine, it would have probably crashed already. I'm taking the same approach. Yeah, you literally just do. The thing is also when you're doing like walks, let's say like you have a character, his foot is coming down to touch the ground, and then it needs to touch the ground and then slap and hit like that, pop, pop. But you want that it slaps the ground and then his foot hits the ground, but his toes are still like overlapping. And in the next frame is when they actually hit the ground. So it's kind of like pop, pop, like that. So when you're doing the walk and you do contact, you just have your contact pose alone. And then now when it comes to the same way we were putting those two keyframes on the sides, that's how now you'll put your contact and then you go one frame before, you go one frame after and put the foot slamming down, and then you'll have this part sticking out. That's going to be a keyframe, and then pop, another keyframe. So you have three keyframes just doing tap tap tap, like Fortnite to do that action. So when you get the hang of just putting keyframes together like that, just like we're doing here with the bouncing ball, um, you also now start to think of the same thing I was saying, how you only use Z so that the X stays constant. That's now, once you've done it to the ball and that stuff is stuck in your head, now you can start focusing on just the foot specific stuff, like whether the foot is twisting properly from this perspective, if it needs to do like a little twist before it hits the ground. You now have that space in your head to be able to do that Hesabu. That's done. So render, view, animation. Oh, it's kind of zoomed out, isn't it? So let's go. I think I also need to do a couple of things, which is to just help exaggerate this squash and stretch. Let's see. The scale is a bit weird. What is this really? So when it gets here, I want it to be still a bit straight. Actually, it's okay. Actually, it's looking okay. So let's do this. view button animation. As you can see, it's coming down, stretching, boing, and then it goes back. It only goes back to being a full circle when it's at the top. It starts stretching, boing, and so on. Ah, wow, I'm still going. Ooh, you can also use this approach in After Effects with a shape layer in a circle, and you apply use the scale and the rotation as what I'm using as squash and stretch, and then just position to move it up and down. But if you keep the same ideas in mind, control where the ball is, where the keyframes are, and you'll have a nice time. Render, view animation. So yeah, it's looking nice and squishy and bouncy. I especially like the way it's after the first bounce, it kind of rolls in the air. So yeah, guys, once again, just try it out. Really experiment with this stuff. Take advantage of your keyframes. Where you've put your keyframes is also a good place to add information like squash and stretch. Just like a contact pose is not just a contact pose, it's also an opportunity to put where the arm is gonna be as someone is walking. We'll probably do a walk now because I've just been talking about walks. But yeah. So yeah, if do you guys have any other questions? Because otherwise, yeah, this is it. Ball bounce is done. I'm really gonna try and figure out why those paths were looking funny like that. I'm sure it's those tangents. Some tangents end up slightly longer than others, but I don't know why Blender does that or how to fix them. Those I know to do in Maya, but yeah, Blender has choppered me there. Yeah, okay, wait. Let's switch to this view. All right, so yeah, thanks guys for coming through for this hangout, or if you're watching this afterwards, thanks for checking it out. If you have, if you'd like to, if you have any issues, feel free to drop by the group. Send your progress. If you can drop your ball bounce on Sync Sketch, I'll either give you a direct feedback on the group, or I can do it in the next open Q&A if it happens to fall about the same time. Yeah, I tried automatic tangents, but for some reason it's still doing auto and it's making one longer than the other. And that's what the issue is. It's if only it could just rotate the tangents, I think it would work just like it does in Maya. But for some reason here, based on where the other keyframes are, it stretches and knees, which is really irritating. But I'm sure it's probably just a setting I didn't know about or I've toggled without knowing. I'm sure it's not something Blender doesn't have. But yeah. Oh, the ball bounce is done. Anyway, yeah. So thanks for coming through, guys. I should probably call it now. I also have a bit of work to do. So thanks for coming for this hangout. As usual, drop by the group and drop any questions you have, any issues, and any clips you have done that you'd like to get some feedback on. We're gonna keep the ball rolling, pun intended. We're gonna keep the ball rolling and do the pendulum next in next week. We're gonna just do a quick pendulum animation. Oh wait, it's that, or I got a request to do some infographic stuff for After Effects. We've done a lot of 3D and story stuff, so I just got a request from a friend to do something on infographics and After Effects in general for very, very basic beginners. So just stay tuned in the group for more details on exactly what's to come. But for now, yeah, thanks for coming through. Thanks for checking out this animation. I hope it wasn't too technical, and hopefully you've learned a lot of new stuff. I know I have definitely learned something about Blender. And yeah, so thanks again for coming through. And let me save my file before it disappears. And I probably never do this again, because I'm definitely not gonna start again if I lose the file. Oops. All right, so thanks, guys. Same time next week on Thursday. We'll do the next hangout. Thanks for dropping by. Feedback is always appreciated, and well, until then, I guess I'll see you. Bye bye.